Good morning, viewers. I am Dr. Ravindra Kumar. We are meeting again. Previously, we have discussed the topics of leadership and motivation. Today, we will be discussing planning and decision making. Planning is a way of life. It is a way of organizational life. Every person plans, as does every organization. Though every planning effort is unique to the planner and the situation. Planning begins with a goal or say targeted outcome or an end state which an organization wishes to achieve. Plans in this behalf is a medium or a means devised for achieving those goals. Now, let us start with the basic concept of planning function. Planning is a managerial function that precedes all managerial functions, that is organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating and controlling. Planning perhaps the most basic function of the management. To start with, the learning objectives, the learning outcomes. Through this today's discussion, we start with discussing the concept of planning, then benefits and pitfalls of planning will deliver. What are the benefits the planning function offers, what are the limitations of planning, they are describing how to make a plan that works, means how to make an effective plan. Then how the companies can use plans at all management levels from top to bottom. They will be discussing the steps and limits to rational decision making. Viewers, decision making is the outcome of a plan. Through planning, we develop some courses of action and we decide the best course of action, that is known as decision. Then we will be discussing how group decisions and group decision making techniques can improve decision making. Now, to begin with concept of planning. Planning is defined as a comprehensive two-stage process of number 1, creating a futuristic frame of reference from which to see opportunities and threats that lie in future. Future is always full of opportunities and threats. Then second stage is taking corrective action to exploit the opportunities and defend against the threats. In strategic management, this is known as SWOT, S-W-O-T. So, what is SWOT? SWOT is basically a planning process. We look into the future to identify the opportunities, at the same time there are certain threats. Threats, we can say, there are certain challenges that always lie in future. Then we as managers, we as planners attempt to take action to exploit those opportunities and at the same time defend ourselves against the threats and challenges. Accordingly, as per this statement, planning is future oriented, planning is decision oriented, planning is the same time goal oriented. Planning is a forward looking function. As I said in the beginning, planning is a managerial function that precedes all other managerial functions, from organizing to controlling. So, first of all, planning is future oriented. As per the statement, successful managers must look into the future to determine what needs to be done and how it must be done before the situation actually occurs. So, this way it is a future oriented. Planning at the same time is decision oriented, because it involves those specific actions which are considered necessary to achieve future end states. See, as per the statement, planning is concerned with creating a futuristic frame of reference from which to see opportunities and threats that lie in the future. So, this way planning is future oriented function. Now, second stage of planning, then taking actions to exploit these opportunities and defend against the threats. So, this way it is a decision oriented. So, what specific actions will be required to achieve future end states? That is a part of planning. Perhaps the most important part of planning is it is goal oriented. The planning process is focused on those efforts which are necessary to achieve the goals. The goals, or say objectives, say end states, or say the targeted outcome. Now, in its ultimate analysis of the concept of planning, planning as a matter of fact is a two-step activity in terms of, like, it is future oriented, it is decision oriented, it is goal oriented. So, planning is a two-step function. Determining, the first step is determining organizational goals, or say setting the right goals. Call them goals, objectives, end states, or the targeted outcome. Then selecting the right means to achieve those goals most efficiently and effectively. So, we are not just concerned with the achievement of goals, attainment of goals somehow. It is not a matter of somehow by chance. The goals, if our planning is effective, must be achieved most efficiently and effectively. That means with minimal of efforts and resources, application of resources, and qualitatively. That is efficiently and effectively. Now, why do managers plan? What are the purposes or objectives of planning? There are four broad objectives of planning. Planning provides direction. The most basic function of planning is that it provides direction. it gives the path to be followed. It identifies the path to be followed by the managers. So it provides direction, where to move, how to move. So direction. Second important purpose or objective of planning is that it reduces uncertainty. Future is always full of uncertainty, full of risk. So those uncertainties and risks cannot be eliminated as a matter of fact. Particularly, business environment is very dynamic, ever changing, it is not only full of uncertainties, full of risks, sometimes it is more than that, ambiguities. Even then we have to decide. So these uncertainties and risk factors cannot be eliminated fully. It is a part and parcel of business environment. But through effective planning, these can be reduced to their minimum, minimal. So planning reduces uncertainty, it minimizes risk as well. Third important objective of planning is it minimizes waste and efficiency. When managers have the direction to follow, when managers are capable to minimize or reduce uncertainty, so they are capable to minimize waste and redundancy as well. An effective planner, manager as an effective planner can definitely reduce, minimize the waste and redundancy. Redundancy means overcoming those actions, those efforts which are unnecessary. So avoiding duplication of efforts. So if we are systematic in our approach, we can minimize waste and redundancy, and the ultimate purpose of planning process is it sets the standards for controlling. Though planning is a function that precedes all managerial functions, it does not mean that planning is an independent function. And perhaps planning and controlling are the functions which are closely interrelated. In the absence of planning, controlling is meaningless or controlling is ineffective. Similarly, in the absence of controlling, planning yields nothing. So basically it is the planning that provides the meaningful base to exercise control mechanism by the managers, irrespective of their levels. Managers functions at different levels, at top level, at middle level and at supervisory level. So irrespective of their designations, irrespective of their levels, planning and controlling part and parcel of their day-to-day affairs. So planning basically provides or say sets the standards for controlling. Now immediate question arises, how do managers plan? Say elements of planning. So as I said earlier, in terms of two-step function, planning is concerned with setting the right goals and selecting the right means to achieve those goals. So every planning begins with a goal or objective or an end state or the targeted outcome. Goals are the desired outcomes for individuals, groups or entire organizations. As there are always individual objectives, there are group objectives or there are organizational objectives. But in terms of managerial planning, we are more concerned with organizational objectives. In fact, these are the goals which provide direction and performance evaluation criteria. In the absence of goals, or in the absence of clarity of goals, every manager, irrespective of their department, irrespective of their specializations, irrespective of their level, is completely blind. So, in fact, goals provide direction and they offer performance evaluation criteria too. So, this is the relevance and significance of goals. Then plans. To achieve those goals, managers need to devise means to achieve those plans. So, plans as such are the documents that outline how goals are to be accomplished, and the plans describe how resources are to be allocated and establish activity schedules. So, plans not only outline how goals are going to be accomplished, the same time they describe how the resources are to be allocated, and later on they establish activity schedules. Now, plans as the means devised for achieving goals may be classified into various categories. First of all, depending upon the levels of management. As we know, in terms of levels of management, it can be classified as top level management, middle level management and supervisory level management or lower level management. So, as I said, planning is a part and parcel of every manager's performance, irrespective of their levels. So, plans can be classified accordingly. As per the classification, plans can be classified into three broad categories: strategic plan, tactical plans and operational plans. Now, what is strategic plan? Strategic plan outlines resource allocation, how the resources would be allocated. Then it prefixes priorities and action steps to achieve strategic goals. These plans are set by and for top management. Then we have tactical plans. A tactical plan is one that is aimed at achieving the tactical goals. Say strategic plan for strategic goals, or we can say in plain words long term goals. Tactical plans for tactical goals, they are set by and for middle management. say middle management, say GM production, GM finance, GM marketing, GM human resource development, and middle up that strategic plan, or say top management, that is strategic plan is concerned with, is basically with the overall administration. Say board of directors, chief executive officer, vice president, and so on. Then we have operational plans, plans that have a short term focus, and these plans are set by and for lower level managers. So this classification is according to the levels of management. There is another classification of plans, keeping in view the duration, or say the periodicity. Plans can be classified as long term plans, short term plans. Long term plans, for long term plans, time frames extend beyond 3 years. Then there are short term plans where time frame is 1 year or less. Another classification is specific plans, directional plans, and single use plan. Specific plans, as the term indicates, clearly define and leave no room for interpretation. Then we have directional plans. Directional plans, contrary to specific plans, are flexible, and they are set out general guidelines. They provide focus. At the same time, they allow discretion in implementation. So there is a flexibility. There is a room for interpretation here. The scope for interpretation, scope for any rectification, if and when needed. Then managers sometimes have to develop single use plan, single use or say one time plan, specifically designed to meet the needs of a unique situation. So as and when a unique situation arises which warrants immediate action at the end of managers. So managers sometimes, under the compelling circumstances, under the demanding circumstances, under the demanding situation, have to develop single use plan. So that is a plan which is developed and used just once, and the plan gets exhausted. Against single use plan, we have standing plans as well. Standing plans or say ongoing plans that provides guidance for activities performed repeatedly, performed routinely, in a routine manner. See, performance is an ongoing process. So managers cannot depend all the time for a single use plan. So for routine activities or for the activities which are performed repeatedly, managers have to have the standing plans. So they are the ongoing plans. Now, after the classification of plans, let us discuss briefly the various benefits of planning. Planning, perhaps the foremost function of management that precedes all managerial functions. In terms of objectives, we have already discussed that planning provides direction, it reduces uncertainty, it minimizes wastage and redundancy, and it helps the management to achieve the goals. Accordingly, there are no doubt there are certain benefits of planning. In particular, planning leads to intensified effort. When we have direction, when we have the predetermined set of goals, and we know the means, we have selected the means for achieving those goals. So, the ultimate result is that we are in a position to put forth intensified effort, because we are clear about the efforts to put forth. Second benefit of planning is persistence. It provides a meaningful base. So, when managers are clear about their goals, about the actions to be taken, so they can persist their efforts. Directions we already discussed. It gives directions, and the same time creation of task strategies on the basis of predetermined set of goals, and thereby selection of right means devised specifically to achieve those goals. So, managers are capable of creating task strategies. What strategy will work to perform a particular task. So, say in brief, the ultimate benefit of planning is it gives ultimate direction, persistence, intensified effort, and enables managers to create task strategies with ease. Planning, though, offers numerous advantages, benefits, but it suffers from certain limitations as well. Like some of the limitations of planning, or say pitfalls. Pitfalls means limitations, or say drawbacks. Planning impedes change and prevents or slows adaptation. Undoubtedly, when we have developed a futuristic frame of reference, so we are abide by that futuristic frame of reference, so that sometimes obstructs changes and it prevents or slow down the adaptation. Sometimes managers find it difficult to adapt, to modify their course of action, particularly if they are following standing plans. Planning undoubtedly reduces uncertainty, but at the same time, in some situations, it creates a false sense of certainty. Like uncertainty, we say theoretically, can be reduced, but the question is to what extent. So, we are following planning. It does not mean that we have created a sense of certainty. Still, we work under uncertainty. So, that is another pitfall of planning sometimes. Another pitfall of planning is detachment of planners. That means it detaches planners from their goals. However, the benefits of planning cannot be undermined. There are certain pitfalls that we have discussed. So, we can say planning offers more advantages than the pitfalls. So, in order to reap the benefits of these benefits of planning process, managers should not be scared of the pitfalls which the planning suffers from. Now, keeping in view these pitfalls or the limitations, what managers can do to make the plans that work, to develop the plans that prove effective. So, an effective plan is one that can again minimize these limitations as well. So, if managers are particular about developing their plans, these pitfalls can also be managed up to a reasonable extent. So, there are 5 steps to make plan that works. First step is set goals. As a two-way function again, planning is just concerned with setting the right goals and selecting the right means to achieve those goals. So, setting the goals, efficiently, effectively, that means when we have certain opportunities that lie in the future to be exploited, at the same time there are certain threats which restrict the exploitation of those opportunities. That is why we say planning is just not simply concerned with setting the goals, it is concerned with setting the right goals. Right goals are the ones which are achievable, which are realistic. We will discuss separately the prerequisites of the right goals. Then develop commitment. Setting the right goals will yield nothing in the absence of commitment. So, managers, in order to develop the plans that work, need to develop commitment as well. Yes, their actions should be commensurate with the goals that they have developed, that they have set. Then, third element, that managers should ensure to devise the plans that work, developing effective action plans in terms of who, means who will be assigned that particular responsibility, that particular task, and who will be accountable. What responsibility is going to be assigned, what tasks are going to be allocated, what activities they will perform, when. Time element is very important. So, when they are supposed to perform, and finally, but perhaps the most importantly, how they are going to perform, what techniques they will employ. So, developing effective plans deal with people, whom is people, what resources, time, and the techniques. Then fourth element is track progress toward the goal achievement. If managers are just concerned with setting the goals, developing commitment, and developing the effective action plan, but they do not bother with tracking the progress toward goal achievement, then entire planning process is going to be meaningless. So, in order to ensure that plans they have developed work well, so managers need to monitor progress toward goal achievement. That is why controlling is a part and parcel of planning function as well. They go side by side. Planning as such cannot be performed independently, means independent of control. So, tracking progress towards goal attainment, and at the same time managers, in order to make the plan that work, should maintain flexibility as one of the pitfalls of planning. We have discussed that it impedes changes, it restricts changes. So, to overcome this pitfall, it will be prudent on part of managers if they can maintain flexibility. So, if they are able to maintain flexibility in their planning process, they can revise the existing plan or begin the planning process afresh. So that is possible for flexibility only. Now let us take one by one. Setting goals means setting the right goals. If goals are smart, but this should be viewed as an abbreviation, not an acronym. SMART. What does it mean? This means goals must be specific, goals must be measurable, goals must be attainable, goals must be are for realistic, and finally goals must be timely, the time element. So that is the essence of goals. So if goals are specific, goals should not be general. Managers, while setting the goal, must be focused to what exactly they want to achieve. So first of all, so that only then it will provide direction. Goals should not only be specific, they must be measurable, means they can be quantifiable. Unless and until goals are not measurable or quantifiable, goals are not said to be specific. Then goals must be attainable, keeping in view the limitations of resources, the constraints of resources. We must set the goals which can be attained by the organization. Then goal should not be vague, goal should be realistic, and equally important is the time element. Goal should be set in such a way that they can be achieved in time. Then, okay, once we have set the goals which are specific, which are measurable, which are attainable, which are realistic, which are timely, we need to develop commitment to goals, that is goal commitment. That is simply determination to achieve a goal. Commitment means determination. Yes, we have set the goals which are specific, which are measurables, which are attainable, realistic and timely. Then thereupon we need to express our determination to achieve a goal. So in order to develop the commitment to goals, managers should set the goals collectively. It should be a collective process. It should not be an individualistic approach. It should not be any one-man show. Only then goals are said to be commitment. Managers should make, once the goals have been set, should make the goal public. That should share among the entire management. And finally, top level managers, top level management support is equally important, as goals can be set at different levels, at middle level, at supervisory level, besides top level. So, if goals have been set at middle level management, at lower level management, so they should accord the top levels management approval. That is known as commitment to goals. Third element towards the plan, developing a plan that work, is developing effective action plans. Now, what is an effective action plan? An effective action plan is one which enumerates specific steps. How? What steps will be followed to achieve those goals? Then who means people, human resources, manpower. Who will be assigned what responsibility? Then what? Means resources, resource allocation. How the resources are going to be allocated? Because planning is not simply a thinking process. In order to convert a plan into an action, so it involves resource implication. So, who will be allocated what resources? Then time period, when? Time period, at what time the activities will be performed, what time resources will be allocated, at what time the specific steps will be followed. Then fourth element is tracking progress. Towards tracking progress, we need to observe, we need to track proximal goals and distal goals. And then there must be some performance feedback mechanism in place, so that the effectiveness of the plan can be measured. That is why we say at the same time manager should ensure flexibility. So, towards ensuring flexibility, performance feedback is an essential element. Without performance feedback, there is no question of flexibility, there is no question of maintaining flexibility. So, if managers as planners want to maintain flexibility, they must ensure the performance feedback, because it is the performance feedback that will guide the managers to change, to revise the plans or to replace the plans as and when needed. Then maintaining flexibility. Fifth element is about maintaining flexibility. We may have option based planning and we may have select resources. What is option based planning? Option based planning keeps options open by making small simultaneous investments in many alternative plans. So, in order to overcome the inflexibility, to overcome the rigidity, managers can do one thing. They can keep all the options open, and that is possible by making small simultaneous investments in many alternative plans, so that in case one plan fails, the manager must have another plan handy, so that it can be implemented immediately without wasting time and resources. Then select resources. What are select resources? Select resources refers to a cushion of resources like extra time or money that can be used to adapt, to address and adapt to unanticipated changes. See, all the changes cannot be anticipated with ease. There are always certain uncertainties that always lie in the future, or say unanticipated changes. So, managers must have a cushion of resources in terms of extra time or money at their disposal, which can be used to address and adapt to unanticipated changes. Now, starting at the top, now planning to plans, strategic plans. Strategic plans make clear how the company will serve customers and position itself against competitors in the next 2 to 5 years. That is known as strategic plans. When there are strategic plans, there is a purpose statement. What is purpose statement? A statement of company's purpose or reason for existing. The very existence of a business undertaking should be outlined by statement of a company's purpose. Then there are strategic objectives. Strategic objective is a more or specific goal that unifies company-wide efforts, stretches and challenges the organization, and it possesses a finish line and a time frame. So, starting at the top, bending in the middle, tactical plans. Tactical plans specify how a company will use resources, budgets, and people to accomplish specific goals related to its strategic objective. So, time frame of course less than 2 years, but between 6 to 2 years, 6 months to 2 years. Then, to achieve the tactical plans, managers normally go by management by objectives. So, management by objective deals with tactical plans. That means MBO, it discusses possible goals, collectively set goals, means these are the requirements of MBO. So, viewers, time is not allowing me to go further. So, let us conclude this session today. At this stage, we will continue with the new topics in the next class. Thank you.